Now, the question is that they found everything which was available to them in order to survive. They found their food, they found water, they understood how to migrate from one place to another. The basic question was, how did the evolution take place that humans started settling down at a place? They started building their homes in order to settle down at a place instead of migrating, instead of moving from one place to another. So how did they choose a place to live? So coming back to the archaeological proofs that we have, sites from which archaeologists have found evidence of hunters and gatherers. As you can look at the map here, that these are few sites in the history that give us the proof that there were people, there were humans, or there were animals living in the previous years, previous millions of years ago. So there are areas such as Burzahom, Mehergarh, Koldiva. These are all the places where we found either bones of animals or humans, tools that the early humans used to use, or some kind of scrape, some kind of fossils that give us the evidence of existence of early humans. Now, so many sites were located near the sources of water. As we discussed and mentioned earlier, that the humans migrated to the places in search of food and water, because water is important for survival, isn't it? So a lot of the places where the humans settled were located near rivers or lakes, because they provided, or they were the source of water for them. They fed their family, they provided them with food in form of marine life. They tried to find places with good quality of stones which were easily available in order to make their tools, in order to make their weapons, so that they could protect themselves, so that they could hunt animals to feed themselves. People also chose caves and rocks as a shelter to live, because caves are covered. They provide us a good shelter from harsh weather conditions, from harsh cold and extreme temperatures. For example, we saw in the map, it was Bhimbetka. Now, the question is, how did they find about fire? Fire is believed to be the source of energy in our existence. Even in now, if you see in your day-to-day life, fire plays a very important role. Fire is used to cook food, fire is used to boil water, fire is used to create energy, to generate light. So it was only through fire that the early humans find their key to survival. They learned how to cook food, how to boil water to make it more drinkable, to make it more combustible. Then they found about how the fire was discovered. So now we have heard the story from her childhood that the fire was created by the man when he grazed two stones together and there was a spark, and the spark lit and became into a fire. Now, how do we know that this is the true story, this is an actual story which is not fake, which is not made up, and which exists, which is evident of creating fire? So our archaeologists, our historians have found traces of ashes that were found at the sites where the early humans lived. Okay, so people were familiar with the use of fire. They discovered fire in order to cook their food, in order to boil water, in order to provide energy, in order to provide light, in order to provide warmth to them to survive in the harsh environment, in extreme cold. And the evidences, the ashes, the bone extracts, the burnt bones found by historians and archaeologists in the sites, in these sites, give us the proof that yes, fire existed and the early man was successful in finding fire. Now, as we have already discussed, the uses of fire. In today's time, think about it. When do we use fire? In how many ways do we use fire? Of course, in Diwali for lighting crackers, but at the same time we use fire in our day-to-day lives. Our mothers use fire in order to light the gas stove, to cook food. So similarly, the early mankind, the humans, used the fire. They lit a bonfire and they cooked food on it to roast meat. Secondly, they used it as a source of light. Today we have electricity around us, but earlier there was no electricity. So when we lit up fire, it gave us a very good illumination. Then apart from that, they used it to scare away animals. There were a lot of wild animals which would hunt on humans, but by fire, by the warmth and by the light of fire, they got scared away and they did not come near the habitation of the human beings. These are the places where the remains of things such as buildings, tools, pots, etc. were found. For example, in the caves where the humans, the nomads used to live, there were ashes, there were broken pots, there were broken tools which were found, and they give us the evidence of the existence of humans. Now, names and dates. Names and dates of places is very important in our history because that tells us about the significance and that tells us a timeline about how many years ago our evolution took place, development of earth, development of our species took place. The early man belonged to prehistoric period of history. What does it mean by prehistoric? Now, prehistoric is also known as the age of stone. We all have seen in movies and in cartoons that there was a stone age. There was also a cartoon named as Stone Age. Now, in that stone age period, the people used to use stone in order to make their day-to-day tools, in order to make their day-to-day things. For example, to make pots, to make utensils, to make weapons, to make tools. And stone was the only material at that time which was available in order to produce all these things. The Stone Age further is divided into three parts, which is Paleolithic Age, Mesolithic Age and Neolithic Age. Now, we are further going to study what are these three ages about and how are they different from one another. So, first we are going to start with Paleolithic Age. The Paleolithic Age started and this period extends from somewhere around 2 million years ago to about 12,000 years ago. The most important feature of this age is to discover fire. As we already discussed about the story that the early humans grazed two stones together in order to generate the spark, the fire. This is where we found fire. This is the age in which fire was discovered. Since there was nothing else we could do with stones, we found fire by grazing. We found fire by the friction caused of the stones. This long span of time covers about 99% of human history because the early humans, the mankind, they started to develop things during this age. They started to experiment on the uses of stones. Later on, after this period, we discovered the Mesolithic Age. Now, what is Mesolithic Age? Mesolithic Age is somewhere around 12,000 years to 10,000 years ago. So, in this age, now we have already discovered fire, okay? So, in this age, the major discovery done by the mankind was to use the stone to develop it in such a way so that we can make tools out of it, so that we can make utensils out of it. For example, as you can see in the diagram and the picture beside me, that these are the stones which are in the form of a conical shape. They are so sharp that they could be used for hunting and gathering. They could be used in order to hunt animals, to protect humans from any difficulty, any danger around them. So these tools were used in growing crops, making hunting tools such as bow and arrows. Followed by the Mesolithic Age, we have the Neolithic Age, which the period of which is somewhere around 10,000 BCE. So this period is known as the New Stone Age. In this, by the time we reached the Neolithic Age, a lot of things were developed, a lot of things were discovered. For example, we already had fire. We already had the tools in order to do agriculture, in order to protect ourselves in form of weapons, etc. Now, what were the discoveries, what were the major attractions, or what were the major things that took place in this age was that agriculture developed as an industry. Agriculture became the main source of food. Since we had the tools, we had everything, we have the resources to grow crop, to harvest crop. In this period, the humans worked on the techniques of how agriculture could benefit them and how it could become a great source of food.